Hello, today we're going to be painting boats in the bay and figures in the foreground. I'm going to put up the photo that I've used as my image for you to paint along with in just a moment. And the bay is down at Emu Point in Albany. I'm going to change the sky. I think we can put some wispy clouds in instead of the little sort of dotty clouds that were there on the day. And I'm going to change the water because the water on that particular day was not as turquoise as I have seen it, and the water down there is usually absolutely beautiful, clear, sparkly water. So we're going to change that around as well. And there'll be some fun figures for you to put in the foreground. So I hope you're going to enjoy it. Paint along. And if you'd like any other demos made or produced, any particular subjects, please leave a message underneath. All the materials I have used today will be in the credits underneath the video, and please leave a like if you do, and subscribe so that you can see any new videos that. So I'm starting my sky. I'm not worrying about a lot of those clouds. I don't think they're necessary to make. It won't make the painting any better, so make it easy for yourself. You don't have to put in things that are not going to improve the painting. So I don't want my sky as light as the one that's in the image, which probably has come out a little bit different on the video screen than it is in reality, but I wanted my actual sky a bit darker. So I've mixed cobalt and I have mixed some ultramarine there as well. I'm leaving clouds like white behind where my leaves will go from this tree, and I'm going to put a landmass in. Now I'm just going to mix some Quinacridone Red and some ultramarine and just grey that off a little bit with some yellow ochre to make a landmass. So that's more purple than I wanted it, but I'll leave it for the time being, and I'll just go over that with some other pigments to darken it up. So I want most of the top of the landmass to be quite soft edged. I don't want hard edged mountains there. So just adding a bit more dark. This is just more ultramarine, same batch that I've used for the sky mix. And I'm going to put some yellow ochre with that to get a bit of a green look happening on the leading edge of that far distant hill, because that will make that come forward and the bluey purple will recede into the background. Do make sure that your waterline is straight, because unless there's a tsunami coming in, it has to be straight. I can straighten that up in a moment. And another hint is never put your horizon halfway. So eye level is very often halfway, so you might have to tweak that a little bit when you're doing your painting, because if you have your horizon smack in the middle of the paper, it's going to cut the painting in half. So I'm just straightening that edge a little bit. I'm not worried about the bleed down into what will be the water, because when that's dry, I'll go over that with some turquoise, and that will be stronger than the green that's there. So you don't have to worry. So here I've mixed up Cobalt Turquoise, which is a fabulous colour. I love it. And I'm going to use that as an underwash for the painting. The trick here is to keep all your edges wet, because if that's very strong, very powerful Cobalt Turquoise dries, you won't be able to add anything to that. You'll have like very hard edges in your ocean. Well, Oceans are soft, the water's not hard, so you don't want hard edges in your ocean. So you can leave out just some white gaps there, and you have to work quite quickly. So this is only a quarter sheet, so it's quite easy to leave sections out for boats, just sort of rectangle shapes in the far distant background. We can tweak them as we go along. Do make sure that the leading edge, the bottom of your boat, where it's sitting in the water or the ocean, is flat, because if it's not, it's going to look unrealistic. I've seen a lot of boats that are not sitting horizontal in the water, so avoid that at all costs. And you can just cut in around your boat shapes, which I've drawn in lightly. The paper I'm using is actually hot pressed arches. I'm only using that actually because there's another painting on the back. So if I was doing this as a proper painting and not just a demo, I would probably use a medium pressed or a rough bao hong. I really like the bao hong paper. So now I'm just leaving out the edges of the jetty, the top surface of the jetty where the planks are, and working as fast as I can to come down there, because I want to drop some more colour into the water before this turquoise dries. Okay, so now I'm going to mix up some cobalt and just take that through the turquoise. Don't worry too much. I guess if there's a rule there, it's the darker the ocean is, the further away from you it should be, unless there's reefs or something like that in the water. But in this particular ocean, there's no reefs out there. And you can get some lovely effects by just letting that paint merge with the cobalt turquoise that's underneath, and you can get some lovely sort of light and dark areas of the ocean. And I always like to have a sponge close to where I'm working. It's actually a car wash sponge, that blue sponge that you can see. And it's so handy to take the excess liquid off your brush, just the tip of your brush, because you don't want that to hold too much liquid. Can make it quite tricky to paint. So now I'm just if you look closely, you can see that there's lots of different windows on the boats. I'm not painting exactly what I see there because I'm not a master marine architect or anything, so I'm just doing an impression of the boats, just enough detail to make the boats look like they are, a boat. That's really all you need to do. It's a bit like painting a bunch of flowers. You only need to do a couple that are architecturally correct or correct as boats are, and the rest of it you can sort of just block in and not worry about in great detail. So we're looking more for an impression here rather than perfection. So I like to put the darks in, especially while that water under the jetty is still, the paper's still damp, because then I get the look of just soft reflections and it gives depth to the jetty. So the far distant hills there have dried a little bit more. So I'm just going to put some more darks in there because I don't want it all one flat colour. So if you want to add depth and variety to your work, always, you know, change the colour temperature. So if you've got cold green, add warm green. If you've got cold, warm green, add some cool. And change the tones as well. That's really important. You don't want it all one flat tone. It's great to have variation. I think I'll just put a little bit of blue over that purpley hill. It's a bit sort of pinkish. And that will make those hills recede. I'll just soften that leading edge a little bit. Okay. So take time to assess your work, see where you're going. Do you need to touch it up anywhere else? What areas could you strengthen? So I'll just now put some poles under the jetty, the pylons, and add a little bit more depth to the tone in the water, the shadows in the water. Strengthen some of the areas of the windows. Don't have them all one dark colour because the windows will be all different tones. Some of the painting, some of the windows will be lighter than others. The water's dry by now. It's very hot here today, so it's taken no time at all to dry. I've cut out some masts just using a box cutter, which is a very easy way. Just scrape. If it's just at the right time, you can get the paint to pare back from the paper and it will give you a lovely straight mast. Just strengthen the look of the boats in the distance with the shadow underneath. So I always make my darks for windows and the poles, etc. that I'm using with Ultramarine dark I use, and also with burnt sienna. It just gives you a wonderful dark. I'm just using now some Cad Yellow Orange to put some buoys in the water. And there's always things in the water around jetties. Adds for a bit of interest. Need to make that a bit brighter. So Cad Yellow Orange with a bit of Quinacridone Red, and I'll just put, there's always things on boats, bits of red, some colour, just random marks. And this is where the fun part of the painting is. You've done all the hard work. You can now just add some colours to your painting. Maybe there's some buoys or something out there in the water. Just add a little reflection, a bit of shadow rather under the buoys, just to make them look like they are resting on top of the water. And you can put the jetty, just hint at the wooden planks. If you've got wooden planks on your jetty, just put some marks across. And of course some more pylons. Just some reflections going in from the pylons. So I've mixed up some Cad Yellow Orange with some red and also a little bit of yellow ochre just to put some houses on the far distant hill. Probably can't see them very well in the video, but it's just a bit of colour contrast so that it breaks up that long straight edge. You can also get a box cutter and flick out little bits of maybe beach sand over there or the roof of a house if you wanted to. And of course we can always use some titanium white. If it's used well, it shouldn't look like, oh, you've used, well, that artist has used titanium white. It should sort of not be able to be, you know, too strong. You don't want it to sort of jump out and hit you in the face saying, oh gosh. It always should be subtle if you're going to use it. So you could also put in some extra boats if you wanted to do that. Check to see if you want to add some white anywhere else. No, I think that's probably okay. And it's always good too to get up and walk away from your painting and come back to it and sort of see it with fresh eyes and see if you need to change anything. If you don't, you know, what can you improve? Often when you're sitting there so close to your work, you often can't see things that are quite obvious if you've gotten up and walked away and come back after having a cup of tea or something. Yeah, you often go, oh, I shouldn't have done that, or oh, I really like that, I can do something more. So I've just mixed up here some French Ultramarine and some burnt sienna just to put some twigs in. If you're going to put twigs, branches or leaves in after painting something like this, always add a little bit of warmth into those twigs and leaves while it's still damp. Otherwise it can look again very flat. So always change the temperature of a colour and change the tones. A bit of light and dark, warm and cool. It just looks amazing. And I think leaves in a landscape like this always give you a better sense of visual distance. So the fact that there's leaves coming down make you aware that you're standing under a tree, or I was when I took this photo. So it just then gives you a bit of distance between where you're standing, where the viewer is looking at the artwork, to where the boats are and where the immediate shoreline would be in this image. So I've just mixed up some yellow ochre, which I'm just going to put straight across there. So again, make sure that that sand has a softer edge leading into the water, simply because the sand very often does go out into the water and the water goes over the sand. The image has quite a hard edge, but you know what looks good in a photograph often doesn't look good in a painting. So you need to then add a little bit of, there can be some shadows there from the tree behind us. So again, I'm just going to assess the painting and see what it is that I can do to improve that. And that dark under there was not dark enough. I didn't want it as dark as the image because that's incredibly dark. Cameras do tell lies. So it's good just to put a little bit of depth into that as we're painting it. So I'm just going to put those marks where the jetty has I guess edges. There's always bits of railing on a jetty. Oops, someone's just leaning in taking a photo, that's fine. This was painted during the class, so you will know who you are. Okay, so I think I'll add some figures here. Because also, like the branches hanging over the viewer, figures always give scale to a landscape. There actually weren't any figures the day I took this photo. It was a bit too early in the morning, I think, for most people. And it was a very quiet scene, so there was nobody around. But we can put some fishermen in who are going out to work on their boats or to head off for the day. And it's often these areas of the painting, the last things that you put into a painting are the details that probably made you really like the image that you're looking at, and you think, oh, I just love those figures or love those boats, but you have to do the rest of the painting first before you can get to that stage. So it's always like saving the best till last. So just do long rectangles for the bodies, a little bit of dark for the head. I don't want them too obvious out there, but they have to be in scale with the boats. Yeah. And against the windows, it's always good to have reflections. So all of the, there's someone else is having a chat. There's often reflections. So your windows in a car or a house or a boat will never ever be one flat colour. There's always something against it. And if there isn't, in the photograph, put something there because it will certainly improve the reality of what you're looking at. And just another photo. Okay. So now I've started with some figures in the foreground. I think figures are always fun to do. So I want nice bright colours. I want not too big. You've got to think of the scale of the person, the size of the person, how far they are in front of you. So you don't want them too tall. This beach is going down, like the sand is sloping down. So otherwise, if it wasn't, I would have all the heads the same height. But he's down at the edge of the water, which is below the jetty. So his head is much lower than the people on the jetty. And just, again, it's a little bit like doing your sky. Don't overthink the figures. Don't try and do them too exact, but do try and give them some reality. So their clothes always look better if you run the shirts into the trousers or the tops into the bottoms. if you try and do neat clothes, they don't work. They just don't look right. So keep them more abstracted than they really are. But you do have to get the scale right. So this guy's got his head, he's talking to the person who's just in the red shirt. And you can see he's a little bit shorter, so he's even closer to the water's edge than the guy he's talking to. So here I'm going to run his shorts into his top. And just pull those legs of the shorts down. If you've got enough strength in your paint, you'll be able to do that without it looking like it's painted. It will have this magical quality to it. So to make your figures interesting, they're at the beach, they're down at the boat pens, so they'll be carrying stuff. So it's always better to have them looking like they're doing something rather than just standing stock still on the beach. Have a little bit of a shadow underneath them. Maybe the sand there is still a bit wet, so a little bit of reflection. I've just put some white on the shoulders of the guy with the red shirt. And I'm going to put a child next to him. He's brought his grandson down to the beach, and 3 people on a beach always look better than just 2. And I've got him looking down, so his head is not as large as an adult's because he's looking down. And we'll give him something to hang on to. Maybe put something in his hands in a moment. Now I think the fellow that they're talking to, he's also struggling. He's got the dog with him. Let's put a dog in. So I've got the dog. He's sitting down. He doesn't want to go any further because he's not a dog that likes the water. So I've got him sat fair and square on the beach. So put a little bit of, he's got a tail there. And again, he's sitting behind the fellow who's holding him, and he's even a little bit higher up the beach than them, not wanting to go down to the water. Okay, so here is my finished painting. I've added, the people have got, they're carrying things, they've got bits and pieces under them. You can see more clearly now the people on the jetty. So just keep having fun with your figures, practice them often on scraps of paper, and you will find that you'll really improve with your figures. Always try and have them doing something, have them in a group, and if possible either have them connected or have them overlapping at the beach.